In September 2023, Maersk took delivery of a container ship called the Laura Maersk. It was the first commercial vessel in the world designed to run primarily on green methanol. It cost $175 million. It can carry 2,100 containers, and when it arrived at most of the ports on its route, there was no green methanol available to put in it. The ship runs on conventional methanol or diesel as backup. The green methanol it was built around, the fuel that makes the whole investment worth making from a climate perspective, exists at commercial scale in exactly one facility on Earth that supplies it. That facility, opened in Denmark in May 2025, produces 16,000 tons of green methanol per year. Maersk's full fleet of methanol ships will eventually need millions of tons annually. This is the situation the global shipping industry has built itself into. The world's largest companies, in one of the world's most capital-intensive industries, are spending over $100 billion building ships for a fuel supply chain that does not yet exist at the scale they require. And there is no consensus on whether the fuel they chose is even the right one. To understand why this bet is being made at all, you first need to understand the regulatory wall the industry is sailing toward. The International Maritime Organization, which is the United Nations body that governs global shipping, adopted a revised emission strategy in 2023, requiring international shipping to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions by or around 2050. This is not a suggestion. Regulations implementing it are being built into international maritime law. The European Union has already extended its emissions trading system to cover shipping from 2024, requiring vessel operators to purchase carbon credits for emissions in European waters. Further rules are tightening schedules for fleet decarbonization year by year. Shipping currently accounts for roughly 3% of global greenhouse gas emissions. That sounds modest. In absolute terms, it represents over 1 billion tons of CO2 equivalent per year. The industry burns approximately 300 million tons of fuel annually, the vast majority of it heavy fuel oil, the toxic bottom-of-the-barrel residue of oil refining. The channel covered what that fuel is and why it became the default in an earlier video. The short version is that it is the cheapest fuel available because it is essentially industrial waste that refineries could not sell to anyone else. Moving from industrial waste to zero-carbon propulsion across a global fleet of over 50,000 commercial vessels is arguably the largest industrial transition in history. And the transition must happen by 2050, or the cost of non-compliance becomes prohibitive for every operator. Here is where the bet gets complicated. There is no agreed answer to what fuel powers a zero-carbon ship. The leading candidates are liquefied natural gas, methanol, ammonia, and hydrogen. Each has a constituency of major companies spending billions to make it the standard. Each has genuine technical advantages. Each has problems serious enough that experts disagree about whether it will still be viable in 2040. Liquefied natural gas is currently the most popular choice by volume of ships ordered. CMA CGM, the world's third-largest container line, has committed heavily to LNG, operating one of the largest LNG-powered fleets in the industry. LNG burns cleaner than heavy fuel oil on sulfur and particulate emissions. Bunkering infrastructure for LNG exists at dozens of major ports. The problem with LNG is methane slip. When LNG engines burn imperfectly, they release unburned methane directly into the atmosphere. Methane is approximately 25 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than CO2 over a 20-year period. Depending on the engine design and how the ship is operated, LNG's actual climate benefit over a full voyage can be minimal or even negative compared to conventional fuel. EU carbon accounting is beginning to price methane slip into the cost of LNG compliance. Ships ordered today for LNG face a realistic prospect of being classified as insufficiently clean under regulations that will exist when those ships are mid-life in 2035. Methanol emerged as the apparent next-generation answer. Maersk made it the cornerstone of its decarbonization strategy, ordering a fleet of dual-fuel methanol container ships and partnering with fuel producers to build supply. The logic is sound in theory. Green methanol, made from renewable hydrogen combined with captured CO2, burns cleanly and can achieve near-zero life cycle emissions. It is liquid at room temperature, which makes it far easier to store and handle than LNG or hydrogen. The problem is that green methanol currently costs 3 to 4 times more per unit of energy than conventional bunker fuel. And the global production capacity for green methanol is a fraction of what would be needed even for the methanol committed portion of the fleet. The consortium of carriers, including Maersk, CMA, CGM, Hapag-Lloyd, and ONE, recently committed $5 billion to build green methanol production plants targeting 3 million tons annually by 2030. Maersk's methanol fleet alone will need multiples of that. Maersk, the company that made the most visible methanol bet in the industry, placed a significant order for 20 LNG-powered ships in 2024 and 2025. The company that staked its public identity on methanol is now also hedging with the fuel it had implicitly criticized. The hedge is rational. It is also a signal about how confident even the most committed player is in its own primary bet. The IEA's most recent long-run modeling projects that by 2050, ammonia will account for approximately 44% of international shipping fuel. Biofuels and hydrogen each account for another 19%. Methanol, the fuel drawing the largest share of current new-build orders, is projected to represent approximately 3%. If the IEA's modeling is correct, the industry is spending its capital on transition fuels rather than destination fuels. The ships being ordered today at $175 million each have economic lives of 25 years. A ship designed for methanol or LNG that enters service in 2026 will be operating in a regulatory environment in 2045 that may treat those fuels as inadequately clean. It may face carbon costs that make it uneconomical to operate. Its resale value will reflect the question every potential buyer will be asking: what does this ship run on, and is that fuel legal and affordable in 2040? This is what the industry calls a stranded asset risk. It is the same problem the oil industry faces with its refineries and pipelines, applied to a fleet of moving objects worth hundreds of billions of dollars collectively. The carriers making these bets understand the risk. They are not making it blindly. The alternative, waiting for fuel technology to mature before ordering any new ships, is not available to them. The regulatory timeline does not permit delay. The competitive dynamics do not permit delay. A carrier that waits for certainty while competitors lock up shipyard slots and fuel supply agreements will find itself with an aging fleet, no production position in the emerging supply chains, and no customers willing to pay the green shipping premium that major shippers like Apple, IKEA, and Amazon are already committing to through long-term contracts. The game theory is unavoidable. Everyone must bet on something. Whoever bets correctly captures the future market. Whoever bets wrong has sunk capital in ships that depreciate faster than expected and fuel infrastructure that becomes uneconomical ahead of schedule. The $5 billion green methanol production consortium is partly about securing fuel and partly about creating a fait accompli. If enough carriers commit to methanol and fund enough production capacity, methanol infrastructure becomes self-fulfilling. The fuel gets cheaper as scale builds. The ships already ordered look prescient in retrospect. The carriers who waited to see what the standard would be find themselves ordering ships for the standard that someone else set. Someone pays for all of this. The transition cost does not disappear into the atmosphere. The green shipping premium, what it costs to move cargo on a low-emission vessel relative to a conventional one, currently runs at roughly $100 to $500 per container depending on the route and the fuel. As environmental regulations tighten through the late 2020s and into the 2030s, that premium is expected to rise. Industry analysts estimate it could reach $1,000 or more per container on major routes by the mid-2030s as carbon pricing mechanisms fully bite. A large container ship carries 15,000 to 24,000 containers. Multiply the premium across the entire cargo and across the entire fleet, and the transition cost embedded in the price of imported goods over the next 20 years is substantial. It will arrive gradually, embedded in shipping surcharges and fuel adjustment factors that appear in fine print on trade invoices before eventually surfacing in retail prices. The shipping industry did not choose to decarbonize because it wanted to. It chose to because the regulatory and commercial environment gave it no option that preserved the current model. The companies that bet correctly on which fuel wins will build the infrastructure of the next era of global trade. The companies that bet wrong will spend their capital correcting a mistake. The bet is placed, the ships are being built, the fuel may or may not be there when they arrive. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.